Hi, I'm Dr. Vinay Kumar, working as an assistant professor at Keladeshi Opanayaka, University of Agriculture and Horticulture Sciences, which is located in Karnataka, India. So, since more than a decade, I'm working on the climate change and related aspect to the sustainable agriculture. And in the last couple of years, I'm working on the carbon farming. So, why working in the carbon farming? I would like to explain a bit about how the carbon farming actually really benefit for the farmers. More than that, we should understand what exactly the farmers are facing the challenges. Now, the soil degradations is impacting the production, productivity, and the distress among the farmers. And the second important part is the climate change. With respect to that, we call it as a climate shocks, which is directly impacting their livelihood, vulnerability in a greater sense with respect to a flood or maybe the landslides. These shocks are impacting them. So now the climate change is impacting the agriculture is a real sense, but whether the climate change is also impacted by the agriculture sectors, yes, both the answers are correct. Now we have to look at something like how to mitigate this climate change through the agriculture sectors, how we can reduce the carbon emissions or greenhouse gas emissions from the agriculture sectors. The earlier people were practicing like conservation agriculture, rejuvenative agriculture, or maybe something like climate smart agriculture in a broader sense. The farmers were not incentivized by adopting these kind of practices as an environment services. Now the concept comes carbon farming. So carbon farming in a simple terms, I can say that you are doing the agriculture practices where you are sinking the atmosphere carbon into the soil or into the biomass. Or maybe you will going to reduce the emission through the different practices like reduced tillage, or maybe the crop rotations or residue management. The livestock and the paddies are the major greenhouse gas emission sectors. So in the paddy, you can go with the direct seeded rice or maybe the alternative wetting and drying, so that you will going to reduce the emission, or maybe you will going with something like feed additives or concentrate feeds in the animals, so that you can reduce the methane gas emission. So in that process, you will also go with something like biochar production system, apply that biochar to the soil so that you can improve the soil organic carbon. So now doing all these things, you are doing the environment service. Now the concept comes like carbon credit. You have minimized the emission and you have saved the emission, you have reduced it, so that you are now eligible for the carbon credit system. So earlier the concept of like this, climate smart agriculture and all is only environment service, but farmers are not getting any financial benefit. So now this concept comes like you have to be incentivized by doing the climate smart agriculture services. So there it works. So in a simple terms like carbon farming, if you understand about share market, how this buying and selling happens in the stock market, the same way the buying and selling happens in the carbon market. So if you look at as a quantification of the carbon, so 1 credit carbon is equal to 1 ton of carbon dioxide or equivalent to the greenhouse gas emission in a simple term. So you may be asking the questions, is it really worth to adopt this kind of climate smart agriculture as maybe the carbon farming in a real sense to get the benefit to the farmers? Yes, it is not just an environment services, it is a farmer centric economic model they are building. It is taking its own course of time to understand how this has to be streamlined or structured in agriculture sectors like in India as a broader sense, or maybe the South Asia in a broader sense, and other part of the world they are already started carbon credit through these conservation agriculture practices. So how we can incentivize the farmers and improve their livelihood along with the environment services and minimize the emissions, so that we can reach the India's ambitious target of being a net zero emission by 2070. I think that makes sense. Thank you.